Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer, with you guys today. And I thought I would just spend 10 minutes on speaking about some major points about the Yod. I'm having a lot of questions and comments about the aspect Yod configuration, planetary aspect Yod configuration in the birth chart. Seems to be quite a popular subject matter. So I had a discussion actually with my mentor, and we just exchanged a few points and highlights. He's got a Yod in his chart, so we kind of drew from that experience as well. Now, I mean, he's 70 something, so he's had a lot of life experience, and he is definitely one of the best astrologers around to begin with. And so therefore his life experience, his experience with astrology and understanding, deep understanding of astrology is incredibly valuable, hence why I continue to exchange and engage and continue to learn from him as well. So here's the point that I would like to share with you guys that might just help you guys understand the Yod better, I think, because this particular point I'm about to make I don't think is actually written in any book. So it's very, very valuable, and you can take it away and reflect on it and see how you can connect to it. So first of all, let's just recap. A Yod is an aspect pattern that is usually made up of at least 3 planets. Now, I just want to say, though, as well that, I mean, first of all, a traditional authentic Yod, according to Bill Tierney, is 3 planets, and the third planet, which is called the apex planet, needs to be Pluto in order for it to be a true, authentic Yod. So the Yod configuration, symbolized by Pluto's energy, characterized by Pluto's energy, is why it is called a fated aspect pattern. And it's also known as the finger of God, as most of you would have heard. Now, Yods do work on a Yod fated, karmic, destined level, which are all characteristics of Pluto's energy, even when Pluto is not at the apex point. I think it's a very different experience, so when Pluto is not at the apex point. When Pluto is at the apex point, there seems to be something undeniably soul-driven, destined, fated to really encounter the energies of that Yod. It's not that it's not the case when Pluto is not there, but there's something very different. Pluto's energy is just I think and I feel very different to any other planetary energy in the chart. And in evolutionary astrology, Pluto is the soul, right? So I think that says it all right there. Okay, so this is the point that I want to make. Let's just say that you do have a Yod configuration and you have not Pluto, another planet at the apex point. Especially the faster moving planets, particularly Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. When we're talking about the transpersonal planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, again, that's going to be a different level of accessing this energy of the Yod. You'll understand what I mean by that when I explain what I'm about to. So let's just say that you had Venus or Jupiter or Saturn or Mars as the apex planet of your Yod. Really what we are talking about is, well, first of all, as we understand, Yods are generally lying dormant and they are activated through eclipses, transits, and progressions at different junctures in your life. The point, though, is this, that just because a Yod is lying dormant, it does not mean that we should just kind of lay low and not do anything with that energy. It's the very opposite to that, actually, because the apex planet in the Yod configuration is the actual planet that we really need to pay the most attention to in terms of the challenging nature of this aspect pattern, because the other two planets, as part of the Yod at the end, are forming a sextile to each other, right? So a sextile by its very nature is not a difficult vibration. It's not a difficult aspect. So there's promise and ease and flow in the bottom part of the Yod with the two planets or more, if you've got more there, sextiling each other. But the third planet, so Yod looks like a witch's hat almost. It's like this tall triangle, right? The top part of the triangle, which is where the apex planet sits, that's the problem point, you could say. That's the challenging point. Whatever planet you have there, that is the planet that needs to adjust, okay? So this is why frequently if you read material on the Yod, you'll hear, or the quincunx aspect, which is what the Yod is. It's made up of two quincunxes forming quincunx to two planets sextiling each other at the bottom, right? So that third planet, that apex planet that's forming a quincunx to a planet on this side and then another quincunx to a planet on this side, that is the planet that needs to adjust itself towards the other two planets which form the Yod. So the adjustment component feature to this Yod simply comes through the definition of what a quincunx is about. Now, a quincunx is an aspect that is described by one planet forming a quincunx to another planet, meaning those two signs, so a planet in Aries forming a quincunx to Scorpio, for example, is a quincunx, right? So let me just check something out, because my brain just had a bit of a fog, a foggy moment. Okay, so Aries, yes, that's right, quincunx Scorpio. So you can see my chart here because I'm sharing my screen. This is just a chart for today, by the way. So just to give you a visual, if you look up here, Aries is right up the top on the 9th house cusp, and we've got Venus and Chiron and Mercury and Vesta all there in Aries. So those energies are quincunx, this Scorpio energy down here. Now, this example has a bit of an exception to it, because normally quincunx signs don't really have much in common, which is why they're described by this awkwardness or a necessity to adjust. But the fact is that Mars and Scorpio are both ruled by Aries, so there is some connection there. But let's just use another example. So let's go to let me think. Gemini sextile Leo, right? So from Gemini to Leo, that's sextile. Okay, that's 60 degrees. That's what a sextile is, 60 degrees. And the quincunx is then formed by Capricorn, because Capricorn is quincunx Gemini and quincunx Leo. 30, 60, 19. Yes, just checking just to make sure. So that's a quincunx there, right? From Gemini to Leo, Leo to Capricorn, Capricorn to Gemini. Now, we can see through these signs that Gemini really has nothing in common with Capricorn, and Capricorn certainly doesn't have anything in common with Leo. So there's an example, right, of how That's what a quincunx means. It means that the energies that are trying to work together have really nothing in common, so that they are very, very challenged to work together. Another way of looking at this would be, if I can just do this, just to simplify things on a visual level. Let me just get, there we go, Aries rising. Okay, so Aries is quincunx to Scorpio, right, as I mentioned earlier, and also quincunx to Virgo. Now, the Aries Scorpio might be easier to fuse together in terms of the adjustments that are required, but Aries to Virgo, gee, you know, you couldn't get two more different signs, really. So the point that I'm making is that whatever planet you have at the apex point, it is that planet's energy that you really need to focus on pretty much throughout your entire life. And the key component to this, to working with this energy, is that whatever planet is at the apex point, because it's forming a quincunx, it means that you have to do it differently. You have to be able to find a way to tune into that energy, whatever that planet is. So if it's Mars, then it's your willpower, your drive, your assertiveness, your energy, your initiation, you know, all those sorts of things, all Mars things, right? Your ability to direct yourself, to direct your goals. So if you had Mars as the apex planet to planets down here in the Yod configuration, that Mars becomes a highly prominent Mars, quite a challenged Mars, because it's in this apex position forming a Yod planetary aspect, and therefore the way Mars would normally operate, it cannot operate as naturally and freely as it would like to, because it's forming a quincunx to these other planets. So these other planets are speaking to the Mars, and they're saying, hey, you need to find a different way to handle your Mars energy. You need to find a different way to integrate your Mars, integrate your willpower. How are you using that Mars energy? How are you exerting your will, your energy, your power, your sense of ability to fight for yourself, for example? Because Mars is fighting for yourself. It's defending yourself. It's protecting yourself, all those things. So then what happens is that the person who has Mars at the apex point, yes, that Mars is going to be triggered at different periods in life through eclipses, transits, and progressions. And that's going to activate that entire Yod, which usually brings in very fated circumstances, conditions, people, relationships. Not easy to deal with, very testing, but destined for the evolution of the soul. So what I'm saying is that instead of sort of thinking that your Yod is more or less just kind of lying dormant until it's activated, which is true, but the point is, though, that you need to activate that Mars and get it working on a different level. How do you do that? You have to try different things. This is what the quincunx represents. It's a Virgo energy, the quincunx, right? So it has that. Virgo is about trying different techniques, different ways of doing things. You know, it's working through things. It's that Virgo energy, working to perfect the energy, as it were, you could say. So any planet on the apex of the Yod really needs to be handled, integrated, worked through, resolved, evolved in a very different way to what it normally would want to act, because it's been asked to do that from the sheer fact that it's in this Yod planetary aspect configuration. So if you have a planet as the apex planet in a Yod configuration, that's Mars, Venus, Jupiter, or Saturn, have a think about what that might be speaking to you in terms of how you need to work with that planetary archetype, whatever that archetype represents, So, going back to Mars as the example, Mars for a woman, for instance, it's also it's her own masculine energy, but it's also the men in her life and therefore relationships. So this Mars would figure very strongly in the world of relationships for a person. So it's about learning how to deal with Mars, how to deal with men, how to deal with relationships, how to deal with one's own sense of will forces in a very different way to what the Mars would normally naturally want to express itself through. Because, as I said, that's what the quincunx is asking. It's asking for adjustments to take place. And also the two planets sextiling each other at the bottom, very important to pay attention to what those planets are, because they're feeding into this Mars at the apex point. They are feeding into the story of how you're going to get this Mars working in the best possible way for you. And I guess when you think about that and you are consciously working on this planetary energy, and it's a lifelong thing. It's not like, I did this for a year and now I'm fine. It's a lifelong evolutionary process that requires your conscious attention and effort towards it. And the more obviously you do that, the more you evolve that energy, and the easier it becomes, the more natural it can become. And when you have experiences through transits, progressions, and eclipses, and that Yod is triggered, if you've done a lot of work, on that apex planet, then yes, it's still a destined experience. Yes, it's fated. Yes, it's going to be challenging, but you're going to have a much better handle of what appears, what presents, and how to work with that, and why you need to work with that. And why has this person, appeared in your life? Why has this situation come to life? What is it? How is this tied into your destiny in terms of your evolution? So that's the key point. Learning how to use the apex planetary planet in a different way to what it normally would usually wish to express itself. So that's the point I wanted to make. It's a very important point, in my opinion, through the conversations that I've had with my mentor and the things we've observed in his own life and other people's charts and so forth. So I was just reminded of it, and I thought, yes, this is a really powerful, valid point for those of you interested in exploring yods and planetary aspect patterns in your chart. As I said, it's a point that I don't think you'll find in any written material, so therefore I think it's very valuable because there's a lot of truth in it based on observation and correlation. So I'll leave that with you guys. Any comments and questions, please feel free to leave them below this video. And much love and blessings, and see you all soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button if you really want to learn astrology, because this is my it's my life calling, so I don't really intend to stop anytime soon in terms of making videos and teaching as much as I possibly can. I do, and as I've said in a previous video, want to create an online course. So I've got the material because I used to teach about 20 years ago. So I've got the material, it's all handwritten. So the task for me, which is quite tedious, it's very Virgo, and I don't have any Virgo in my chart, is about transferring all that over into an online platform where I can offer that to you guys. But in the meantime, I'm really more than happy doing these videos and teaching as much as I can. So see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Love and blessings.